This is Black Music Scene, brought to you by the Black Orchestral Network, an archive for Black classical music, connecting the hands that carried us to the voices that will shape our future. These are conversations about craft, legacy, and the work that carries the music forward. This is Black Music Scene, cultivating community, lifting our voices, and telling our stories.
Welcome to another episode of the Black Music Scene podcast, where we share the stories of Black classical musicians in our field. Today we're live in New York City at Opera America's Skorka Hall. I'm your host, Shea Scruggs, and I'm here with two incredible friends and guests, tenor Lawrence Brownlee and fellow Black Orchestral Network co-founder Weston Sprott. In the first part of our conversation, the three of us are going to talk with Lawrence about how he found his voice in classical music and what it means to move through the opera space as a Black artist. We're also going to talk about how his values and vision shapes the work that he chooses to do on and off stage. In the second half, Weston and I are going to stay on the mic and zoom out to the broader story of the Black Orchestral Network and how it came into being and some of the work that we've been doing in 2025. Let's get into it. So, Lawrence, Larry.
Yes.
For someone who's never met you before, can you talk a little bit about how you found your voice literally and figuratively?
My mom told me that when I was about 10 years old, I think it was, that I was singing in my sleep. She woke me, the next day I woke up and she said, "Oh my gosh, you have an amazing voice." And I was very shy about singing, but she said, you have something special that the world or the church or whatever needs to hear. And so I was quite shy about singing, but as I got older, I became less shy when people started to positively respond with my voice or about my voice. And so I guess that's how I found out that I had a voice, because my mom told me that I did. And so I was always put up in front of people throughout high school, junior high school. And I had teachers that said, the world needs to hear you sing. And it was in that pursuit of trying to be a better singer that classical music found me, or I found it. I was actually mocking what I thought a classical singer sounded like when I was in the 12th grade. So all through school, I was doing everything with music, but then in the 12th grade, I did this competition. I guess it was a program and competition, and at the end of it, it was a standing ovation. And at this standing ovation, it shocked me, because I didn't expect people to respond that way. But there was a teacher in the audience, and he said, "I don't know who you are, but you absolutely have something special that you have to pursue." So how did I find it? Maybe it was something that just needed to come out of me like a wellspring or something. But my mom was the first one that recognized that there was something special about my voice.
When you talk about that moment being a senior in high school and someone noticed that you had the thing, do you remember what you sang?
I sang one of the songs from the 24 Italian songs and arias. And we had, I know you're from the state of Texas, and used to have all kinds of competitions going throughout high school. And so I was involved in choir and madrigals and everything else. And so my choir teacher gave me solos. And so this one solo for state competition, I sang, not knowing Italian, not knowing pretty much anything that was other than English. I thought I was a pretty good faker, but I sang this piece, and that was it. He said, this is special.
Okay, so even in high school, you were already doing some things that were leaning into the world of operatic training, if
Yes.
you're doing like Italian songs. And so what I'm wondering, you're talking about Go Tell It on the Mountain,
Yes.
singing that in your sleep, growing up in church,
Yes.
as I know you did. I think maybe we all did here. Was there a particular performance or a recording or a singer, something that you heard that made you think, the classical music sound world, maybe that's a world that I want to be in? Because, this Black Orchestral Network, I'm thinking, like, I grew up in the Pentecostal church. No one in my church was thinking about going to the opera. So what started to veer you in that direction?
Well, it was a teacher. And as I said before, we were doing madrigals, and we were singing, for the lack of a better term, we were singing white.
Okay.
We were singing, correctly with good shapes and vowels and everything else. We weren't singing the gospel. I had come from the gospel tradition, playing instruments. I played a lot of stuff growing up in church. Played the drums. I played a little bit of the organ. Played the bass guitar. So I had music in me, and it was a lot quicker to jump on an instrument than sing. But it was in that singing of us learning how to sing correctly that I had a teacher, he said, man, your voice, it's something that lends itself to classical music. And then that teacher that I mentioned before, he was the one that said, your voice is perfect for classical music. I didn't even know what it was, but I have to say at that time, yes, I'm this old, at that time is the same time that the Three Tenors CD, Pavarotti, Carreras, and Domingo came out, and it was on TV. And I remember hearing that CD and hearing the voice of Pavarotti and thinking, oh my gosh,
right? Yeah.
I want to try to do that. So that influenced me greatly. It was during that time, my senior year of high school, that all of that stuff was coming out.
Amazing.
Can you talk about some of the other influences? Three Tenors, that's an incredible one.
Yes. Well, I didn't know now I do, but I didn't know about the tremendous legacy in classical music. And I can speak, particularly about vocal classical music, but some of the greatest singers in opera are people of color, black people. The great Leontyne Price, the great Jessie Norman, the great Kathleen Battle, who's still with us, and Miss Price is also still with us. William Warfield, Paul Robeson, Roland Hayes, even George Shirley, who's also with us. Many of these people have tremendous legacies and histories in classical music I didn't know because I hadn't been exposed. But when I began to do some research and began to do some study, then I found out, okay, there is a place for us. Of course, the great Marian Anderson. I would be remiss if I didn't mention her, but also her and the legacy, of course, these monumental things that they did at the Lincoln Memorial concerts and stuff like this, where they had a huge impact on the world of classical music, particularly the vocal part. For me, just made me think, okay, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm not doing something that no one's ever done before. I'm doing something that we as black people in this country have a tremendous history of already doing.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? Yeah. So
I have one as well.
A little bit off script, but that's okay. That's the nature of organic conversation. You mentioned this long list of incredible names of great black singers in classical music. And I was thinking, so oftentimes the black experience, when you're able to do something that feels like it's a big achievement, people talk about, well, that person was the first to ever do this or the first to ever do that. No, you have many firsts that you have surely achieved. But what does it feel like for you to feel like you don't have to be first because there's a history of greats who have done this before you and kind of set the stage for you to be Lawrence Brownlee? When you step on stage at the Met and you're singing a leading role, you're not the first to have ever done that.
Right.
What does it feel like to be one of the stewards of carrying that forward? Well,
people like George Shirley, he's a person that's very important for me, because he was the first of many. And I've been the first in a few things, but not the first in many things. And now when I feel like, because of Mr. Shirley, because of Martina Arroyo and Miss Price and Grace Bumbry and Shirley Verrett and all these people, I feel like I'm standing on those shoulders. And they went through arduous situations and moments of racism and traveling in the South and not being able to eat in restaurants and having to stay in hotels off the beaten path because they couldn't stay in the one downtown. I heard all of these stories that now, because they broke down those barriers, I don't have to experience that. And for me, it's really, really important, just as they helped me, to try to be a help to younger singers. And so even some of the first I've accomplished, hopefully someone now, both of you guys being orchestral musicians, somebody's not gonna have to be the first and have to feel the pressure that someone can often feel. I think if they can see myself or some of my colleagues who've been fortunate and blessed to have achieved so much, that they won't have to deal with those pressures, and they can just really think about being the best musician and best version of themselves without any of that extra added weight.
I love that. And I love that you're talking about this lineage of this tradition of great singers that where you're standing on their shoulders. You're the next one, not necessarily the first one. It's I think that's great. And one of the reasons why Black Music Scene, this podcast, came together is because we wanted to put something in place that would be there for young people who wanted to learn about what came before them. That way they weren't getting so far into their life and just discovering some of these great artists who actually were doing all this great work before they were there. So since we have a natural point to talk about, young musicians coming up. Can you talk a little bit about the next generation of Black singers that are coming up, and any advice that you might have for them?
Yeah, I'm really excited for the wonderful, wonderful musicians, instrumentalists, and singers who are out there gracing the greatest stages of the world. There are no limitations. Nothing should keep you off those stages. So I'm excited about them. And what I want to do is always be someone that's accessible for them. I truly believe in paying it forward. I believe that we are there to kind of pull them up if they need it, to encourage them, to challenge them, to inspire them. I'd never think about being a role model. Someone said, they were talking about Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley said he never wanted to be a role model. He didn't ask for that. But he said just being successful is going to make you one. So sometimes you have to accept the fact that you are fortunate, blessed, lucky, all these other things, and there's a great responsibility for you to be available to others. Encourage them to work and let them know that it doesn't come free, it doesn't come without any self-discipline, and it starts with you. That's the main thing. But I want to let them feel like that they have every opportunity to be successful, and I want to be a representation of what it could, so they can see that it's possible. So I tell them all the time, look, I started where you are, so you see me, and I'm extremely thankful and grateful that I've achieved the things that I have, but I'm no one special in the sense that it's not unattainable for you. And I tell them that all the time. So I'm excited about young singers. I'm excited about young instrumentalists. I'm excited about people who dive into this and take it serious. And I hope that they will put their whole hearts in it and just see the potential or the opportunity to create a life in this world.
Jumping off on that, Shea and I are two of the founders of Black Orchestral Network. And we're super proud of a lot of the work that's happened as a result of the start of this network. I know that you also are a founder of an organization as well. Can you just tell the world a little bit about it?
Yes.
What it is, what the work is, who some of your collaborators are?
Yeah, so I am a part of a group called, one of the founders of Black Leadership Arts Collective, and that group is a group of singers that we call ourselves Singers First and Mentors Second.
Okay.
And I think people see us doing the work. We believe that talk is cheap. We believe action is a lot more important. And so this cry, I think, was made during the pandemic, and it happened during the time of everybody was asking questions when George Floyd, that horrible, horrible incident with George Floyd. People were asking questions, not knowing what our world would be. And I know the same thing is true. We live in the same, we're under the same tent, same umbrella. And so as classical musicians, everybody's asking questions. Are we going to have jobs? What is the future of our industry? And people making that transition from college to young artist program to the professional stage, there were a lot of questions, and people were like, can you give us guidance, give us insight to what we should do? How can we, in a world that's shrinking, how could we have any chance at being successful? And so for us, we began to talk amongst ourselves. What I mean, my colleagues that are actively performing on these stages, beyond the college and young artist program level, of in the past, we hadn't experienced that people before us had offered that type of help, and that was something we felt was lacking. And so what we wanted to do was to change that narrative and change that and be the people that someone who's just coming out of graduate school could say, I have access to Morris Robinson or Janae Bridges or Kenneth Overton, or some of the other singers that are part of Laquita Mitchell, that are part of Black Leadership Arts Collective. And so we offer funding, mentorship, we do master classes, we provide performance opportunities, we work on everything from audition packages to anything they need, so they feel that someone's there, in the trenches kind of fighting for them. So that's something that I'm actively involved in. I feel a great responsibility to do that, but I also find a great deal of joy when I see them doing well, making strides in pursuit of their dreams and goals as well.
That's amazing. And before we kick it back to Shea, I'll just say I remember coming to you all's performance. I believe it was last year.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, September.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be 2024 in
Yeah,
Manhattan School
exactly.
of Music. And it was an incredible performance that you all gave, but it also just gave me a lot of joy to see young singers that I know from Juilliard pre-college and other places like that coming to see these amazing black singers on stage. What that meant for them was really, really powerful. So
the same thing is true for being in the orchestra. Someone leans over the pit and sees that you are there playing trombone, or you're there playing the oboe, or Anthony playing, the clarinet, or DeMar. I mean, there's so many examples of people who've been successful, are being successful at the very highest level. It's important, and they see. It is a tangible thing that they can grasp. It's not an imagination. They can see it. And so I think that's important for like what you're doing and like what we're doing with Black Leadership Arts Collective, is to just be available for them and let them know that they're not alone.
I thought it might be nice to pivot and talk a little bit about the work that you're doing right now.
I thought it was fantasy football.
Well, you know what? We should totally get into that too.
Yes.
The work you're doing on the people in your league, that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. You're in an enviable position to be able to choose from a variety of really interesting projects. Can you talk a little bit about how you choose projects now and just what you're looking at, what you're looking for?
Well, I am a father of 2 kids, and being away from them is one of the most difficult things. So one of the things that kind of informs what I do is how long I'll be away. I want to try to be there. They live in Florida, and I live in Florida when I'm not on the road, but I try to get down there at least once a month. It doesn't always happen just because I work in Europe a lot too. But my family, my kids, are something that's really important, that helps me decide, but also something that's meaningful. As I age in the business, being 53 years young, there are a lot of things that I've done for many, many years, over 25 years. I don't need to do those things anymore. There are other people that are 26, 27 that are coming up. I think some things have to be intrinsically interesting for me. Projects that are passion projects is not about necessarily, I love singing at the Metropolitan Opera. I love singing on at Paris and La Scala, but I would sing at Opera Philadelphia, which is a good company as well, if they do something that's meaningful. I've worked with them a lot. Chamber opera, new works. I've done CDs with young black composers. I did a CD recently called Rising. I did a spirituals CD before with another composer, African-American composer, Damian Sneed. And so being a part of the creation of music, being a part of helping someone else get their artistic voice or who they are, their identity out there, is something that's important to me. So I look at projects and see if there's anything in that speaks to me. I'll say yes, and I won't just look for the lights and the camera or all those things. And that's fun sometimes, to be a part of these interesting productions that, if you're in an HD broadcast or doing something like that, it's pumped around the world and people see you. That's nice, but I think things that speak to your heart is really, really important for me to make sure that I leave space to do things that are fun for me to do, but also interestingly, and things that feed me. That's a part of my process now in how I choose my career and the steps that I take now.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the Spirituals Project. I'm guessing that a lot of the folks that are sitting in the front row, the Lawrence Brownlee fans sitting in the front row at La Scala or the Met, might not know that you did that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about any projects that that maybe folks don't necessarily know about that you you wish they did?
Well, I tell people all the time that the beginning of my musical education was church.
Okay.
Anything you've ever heard in the world, in the sound world, you can probably see some influence from the church. And there's a lot that grew out of that tradition. Even when I sing now, people in church will say, "Let the Spirit move you." And the thing that I think myself I always take in classical music is to try to feel that there is a motor or an engine underneath that inspires me. I'm inspired by something. If it's church in churches, the spirit, something needs to make that sing in classical music too. And so because I have that background, I think it's infused my singing with a certain type of energy. I hope it has, and I think that's, if people hear something special or different, it's special or different is because of that great influence. It's just, for me, when I think about how I get out and be an artist, and when people don't know about me, everything that I've learned in my life somehow informs what I do. So someone may not know that I was in church, or I used to sing in an R&B group, or I used to work at an amusement park as a singer and dancer, and then I have a strong dance background, or used to be involved in community theater. All these things are a part. You know, Shaka Khan said, I'm every woman. I'm not every woman, I'm every man. I'm every man. But, you know, all of these things, if you can take from these, if you can glean something from everything that has informed you as an artist and a musician, I think it just really makes you more versatile. It gives you a bigger palette of things to draw from. And so that's what I always try to do. And hopefully, I believe that I'm always stylistically correct in whichever style I'm singing in that moment. But yeah, they may not know where it came from, but it's all a part of who I am as an artist. And I try to use all of that every time I step on stage.
Wow, this is such a great conversation.
Different timeline. He could have been Teddy Pendergrass.
Maybe.
I was thinking, so just a handful of days ago, we had the privilege at Juilliard Pre-College of having you teach a master class for our young singers, and you are a spectacular teacher and communicator. It was amazing to watch. In fact, I can already say I'm a better trombone player just a handful of days later, as I think about some of the things that you said in that class. You know, that we are thinking about, sing a full idea, don't sing one note. Right. One of the things that you said that stood out to me was never let the dynamic or the text impact quality production. I think about that now every time that I play, so thank you. But what I was just thinking about is you were talking about all these experiences, growing up in church, singing at an amusement park, you know, getting somewhat discovered during a high school performance. A lot of people now could just come to a show. I'm imagining a young 16-year-old singer coming to a show at the Met, and they see you knock off these high C's and Daughter of the Regiment, whatever. They think, okay, that's great. Can you talk a little bit about the type of work you had to do, and maybe even some of the things that you had to sacrifice, whether that's not just about work ethic, but maybe things in, you know, you just said, I live in Florida, but currently I'm in New York, and then next month I might be in Paris. What are things you had to sacrifice, and talk a little bit about the work that was required for you to transition from being that young, talented person where someone can see a gift to a fully refined person who is singing leading roles at the most important opera houses in the world?
It makes me think of the movie A Few Good Men. Okay. And Cuba Gooding Jr. Mm-hmm. And I remember when he was trying to become a Navy diver, and that is such a limited space that no one gets in there very easily. And him being a black man definitely made it harder. And you saw him working. You saw him working. So I've had setbacks, and people don't know all the setbacks that I've had. I've been incredibly inspired by my father, who he and I are the same height. He's a black man who's 5'5.5", and I do claim my half on that 5'5.5". But he's someone that he was like, I always find something that I can't do. If somebody tells me I can't do something, I'll try to do that thing, and if I can't do that, I'll try to do something else. But my father always impressed upon me that it starts with you. And so he said, if you want something, you have to work for it. Don't wait for somebody to give it to you. So when I saw him and his incredible work ethic my whole life, and he was an example for not only myself and my family, but for other people. Even now, when we go back home and to our church, we see so many of these young men that have gone on to be very, very successful. They will always credit my father for being a tremendous inspiration. So he was there telling me all the things that I had to do. He demanded it in a way that was supportive. He made me believe that I could do whatever I wanted to do. So I always felt like it started with me. So the pursuit of anything, Especially a setback is the thing that will propel you even further. If somebody tells you no, okay, that's one no, but I can try to find a yes somewhere else. If one door slammed here, I want 2 doors to open there. And so I always felt like as a 5'5.5" black man wanted to sing romantic leading roles on the world stages, that's not going to be something that people are going to roll out the red carpet. They're going, I'm going to have to work for that. And so I always felt like, make sure that and my father told me this, make sure you think about the things you can control. So not about the doors that slamming in your face, but how you can be the best version of yourself. So as an artist, being, a master as much as you can of your gift, understanding language and stage deportment and all the things, being on time. And if you're on time, you're late. But being there, be an agreeable colleague, being there and don't be a problem. Give people fewer reasons to not hire you than to hire you. So it always started with me. So that was like the baseline. And so I remember one of my friends years later when I was in the professional world, and this is a guy who studied with me at Indiana University, he said to me, I remember you working so hard and I made fun of you. But look what you've become. He said, but I saw you going to the library almost every day. I saw you in the practice room. I saw you doing all those things. And for me, I didn't think of it. That's just what I needed to do because I didn't want the things that people could say, no, you can't do it because of this. I did all those things. And so the work that I've done, we used to sing at church, let the work I've done speak for me. So all the things I've done, I don't ever step on stage guessing. I don't ever step on stage thinking, oh, I'm grateful. Yes, I'm grateful, but I worked my rear end off to do all the things that I've done in life, and I feel like those things are paying off now. So that's what drove me, being a worker and taking the initiative myself to make sure that there was nothing to keep me from doing what I wanted to do.
I want to ask you a follow-up on that, because there's a lot of people who do a lot of work and they really try hard. There's a lot of students out there right now who are thinking, well, I'm in the practice room 4 hours a day and then I go to shows every week so I can hear what the standard is, but I lost this competition or I didn't get that opportunity, this or that or whatever. And I know that you've had some of those experiences as well. It's like, well, I did this whole gauntlet of work and despite that, this door slammed in my face. So I have a friend, a colleague in the Met Orchestra, Billy Short, bassoon player, who actually has he's created his anti-resume.
The anti-resume.
He created the anti-resume. He created the anti-resume, I think it's really interesting. It's like, I didn't get in this festival and that and that and that and that and that and whatever, and now I'm principal bassoon of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra.
Yeah, but it's important.
Yeah, so I'm curious, and share as much as you feel comfortable. You can redact names if that's necessary.
Nah, put the names in.
We can also cut it out in post-production. But going back to that thing, I can imagine some young singer coming to the Met, they hear you do what you do, and you're like, oh, that guy, Lawrence Brownlee, he's just, he's got this amazing voice and incredible upper register, and it's easy, so of course all these things happen for him. Can you, for that person who's listening, can you share maybe some of your anti-resume, some of the things where this didn't work out, that didn't work out, this person said I was going to make it, and a quote I heard recently was, one of the things that people don't understand about winning is how much you have to lose first.
Yes.
So can you talk about what that's like through the lens of Lawrence Brownlee?
I say that a necessary ingredient of success is failure. I think you have to fail in order to understand how to succeed.
And sometimes a lot.
Yes. So I have, like many other people, over the years, I've heard, look, I didn't get an audition for Juilliard, and now I teach there. I didn't even get an audition for Juilliard, and now I'm teaching there, shaping young minds and voices. Right. I was told I won the Met audition. I was fortunate to win the Met audition. I didn't win the first 2 times. They were like, oh, you have some talent, but... Okay, so I won the 3rd time, and so a friend of mine was at a cocktail party that same week, and one guy came up to him, an agent came up to him and said, oh man, I saw the Met audition, and it was this guy, he was like 4 feet tall, black guy, and I was heavier then, comes on stage, and I thought, what is this guy doing there? And then he opened his mouth, and he sang, and we're all like, oh my gosh. But you know what? That guy's not going to have a career. He may do some little stuff in like these small theaters in Germany, but he's not going to have a career. That, and I can give you probably 50 other stories, but stories like that, people telling me what I wasn't going to do. All I need to do was hear that. Somebody said, okay, I'm not? Okay, sure. do I have any say in this? I think I do. And so I really commenced to working on myself, and along the way that I've heard things. Well, he's not our idea of what this person is, or are all these veiled comments or things that were not necessarily direct of why I couldn't do what I was supposed to do. That was only fuel for me, as I was saying before. Cuba Gooding Jr. in this movie, he said he wanted it so much because people told him he couldn't have it. That will definitely drive you. That and feeling like you're doing what you're supposed to do. So anyone who's come up against hardship and has had those doors closed in their faces, and some people gave up, maybe sometimes prematurely, or even now they don't have any direction. I can tell you, I have suffered many, many, many disappointing things in life, but I had this gene. I have the gene in me. Get up and try again. Pick yourself up and try again. What can you do? And I always try to break it down to a very, very small denomination, nothing that's super daunting. I have to start the leading role at the Metropolitan Opera. I don't start there. I'm like, I want to be able to sing something on this scale and do a good job. And that, if I do it well and continue to do that, hopefully it'll open the doors for me to do something else. And so that process happened. I remember starting in one-line roles. One-line roles in Opera Theater St. Louis. I had "Oh, Help Us Here" or something like that. That was my first professional debut. Right? And,
come a long way.
Right? that boy good.
Yeah, help is here.
And think about Brittany Renee. Yeah. Brittany Renee right now at the Met. Her story is wonderful because she started in the extra chorus of the Met, and she's singing the role of Bess now. So that's the process of a person who kept going, who said, I will not be denied. And so it takes that type of drive, hunger. For those people that are sitting and listening to this, just know that 3 people are on the stage that have had hardship, and we've used that to propel us forward.
Thank you for that. I'm so glad. You're never too old to hear and be reminded that success is it's not about the absence of failure or adversity. It's about pushing through it. Appreciate that. You alluded to some roles that you had early on. I think it would be great to hear you talk about roles that you identify with, things that you might identify with particularly for artistic reasons or just personal reasons.
Well, I love the role of Nemorino in The Elixir of Love. And people who know me, you guys know me, but even in my social media and stuff like that, I am always just trying to be myself. Yep. Just an easygoing guy that's relaxed, not flustered, not complicated. That's who I try to be in my real life. And I think Nemorino is a person who loves someone. He doesn't, he just loves her. He's a simple guy. He's not complicated. And he really is going after something he wants. And so I think that is a character that is very much like me. And I've played that role several times, and I hope to get a chance to play that more in the future. But a lot of the roles that I will play are like kings and princes and things like that. And of course, that's not me. In everything that I do, I always try to find my own way to do it in a very believable way in 2025 or 2000, whenever it is. But any role that I take on, I'll look at it, I'll try to take myself out of it and just try to think, how can I make this read well for me? I'm doing the role of Puritani right now. I'm Arturo in Puritani at the Met, and so this is the Stuarts and the Scots in Scotland. That I don't know anything about that world, but I do research and try to make it authentic as possible, and hopefully I can embrace that as well. But yeah, Nemorino's one. Tony on the Daughter of the Regiment is another one that I feel that's close to me. Simple, someone who believes in love and wants to find that person that he'll spend the rest of his life with. So those are 2 roles specifically, but any role I always try to have a journey that I can somehow grasp who the character is.
Love that.
Yeah. I know we're getting down to the last few minutes of our time, and just, we talked a lot about music and career trajectory and all those things. If it's even possible to separate music and career from who you are, what do you say are just some of the grounding principles that make Larry Larry? You know, like you know, I mean, whether you're going through something in your personal life or you're preparing a new role that's difficult or whatever, what are some of the central themes, values, stuff like that makes you who you are?
Respect, belief in myself, respect for others, respect for myself, belief in what I'm doing, belief in my gift, belief in the process. I never want to be overwhelmed by this. I consider myself incredibly fortunate to do what I do. And I say this jokingly, I don't work on fries at McDonald's, you know? And no disrespect to someone who works on fries at McDonald's, but I do a job that is a pretty amazing. And I get a chance to step on the stage regularly, not only this stage that I'm stepping on now, but this stage is the greatest stages of the world, bar none, the greatest stages of the world for what I do. And people come from all over the world because they see my name. And I feel so lucky to be able to do that. But I never, ego is not one of, I mean, we have to have a certain amount of ego, but not to the point that it causes me ever to disrespect anyone. It's belief that, you know, everybody that's contributing to what they see on stage, and I've had this from the beginning. I remember thinking that if the stage people don't do their job, then I can't do my job. If the orchestra doesn't do their job, I can't do my job. If the wig people do a bad job, the whole performance is going to be impacted in some way. So it's a world that works together, and I think I need to treat the leading soprano the same as the guy who's the security guard at the door. So that's who I am. I just try to be approachable. Being one of 6 kids, you don't have too high opinion of yourself, and that's kind of like the principle that I try to lead my life with. When I meet someone new, and you meet people all the time, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's Lawrence Brownlee," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just a real person. Look, that's just skin. That's just skin." And so that's how I am, and that's how I am always in my personal life, and I just want to be that way all the time.
You said something I want to pick up on really quick. You talked about ego. And I think one of the things that a lot of Black artists struggle with, or perhaps they struggle with regard to how people perceive it, is the difference between ego and confidence. You know, just sometimes just having the belief, like you were talking about, that you are capable of walking out on one of the world's greatest stages and actually doing this at the highest professional level can be perceived by others as egotistical, because perhaps they're not accustomed to seeing that level of confidence come from a 5'5.5".
Thank you. Don't leave that out.
Black man. So I'm wondering, how have you navigated that over the years within yourself and also in the way that other people perceive you? Because that's a difficult thing for a lot of people. Right,
and oftentimes they don't understand you, and what their perceived opinion of you is because they don't know you, because they'll look at it as arrogance, but it's really confidence. And because I have to be a confident person walking into a space where you already don't expect me to achieve. And so I'll correct them. I say, look, I'm doing this off of confidence, not arrogance. Confidence, because guess what? I did all the work that I never guessed what's gonna happen on stage. I know I can do something because I have gone through the paces to make sure that I'm dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And so I never get on stage like wondering, oh my gosh, I hope something happens. I know what will happen in any case because I'm prepared for it. And so that is confidence. That's not arrogance. Arrogance is having your nose up in the air and looking down on other people. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not going to disrespect you, but I'm definitely going to walk in the room like I should be there and not apologize for being there. So confidence and arrogance is easy for me to explain to people. I'll say, that's not arrogance, that's confidence. And it's based on all the things. And you'll see, what you will see me doing in that whole process is working. And I will never shortcut the process. You will know that the stuff is there. Everything that's happening comes from a source. And so you can be confident and secure in what you're doing because you've done all the work to get there. So that's how I always lead that way.
Love that.
That's me.
I think just because we're short on time, I know first we're thankful to you for taking time out of your crazy schedule. You're in between services right now.
Yes.
To just say thank you for your time. Thank you for talking to us, and what you just finished talking about with the difference between ego and confidence, and just being able to stand in the fact that you did the work as someone who's played in the orchestra as you have been singing for many, many, many years. The proof is 100% the proof is in the pudding for sure. There are receipts. They are documented in audio and video, high definition broadcast, et cetera. And I'll just close on the thought that I know that all three of us are college football fans, albeit for very different schools. But I know that last year we were all kind of following the Deion Sanders moment at University of Colorado, and someone asked him about, was it Travis Hunter, I think?
Yeah, Travis Hunter.
And, he had one of those games where he had 3 touchdowns that he caught, and then he had an interception, ran back a punt for a touchdown, or something. Someone said, can you believe this guy did this? And he said, yeah, he is him.
Yes, that's right.
And that's people coming to me, they say, can you believe Larry has a high F important time? It's like, he is him. Go see it. So
he's that guy. Well,
Larry, you want to close us out with anything? Any closing thoughts you want to share with the world?
I just, it's nice to be here in this shared space with you guys that I know that are out there doing what you're doing to help others. And so it inspires me to continue to do the work that I'm doing. And so it's nice to see you doing it. And I wish you all the best in this endeavor to really help others to achieve their goals. So thank you for having me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate you. On behalf of Black Orchestral Network, just want to thank you for coming out and for sharing your story. You are him. I'm down with that.
Thanks.
So we're going to take a short break, and after this, we're going to come back, and we're going to have an interview with Weston Sprott talking about the beginnings of Black Orchestral Network, and we're going to get into Weston's story a little bit.
Black Music Scene is written and produced by David Norville with assistance from Emilio Carlo. Editing and sound design by David Norville. Special thanks to Opera America, where this episode was recorded. This work is supported in part by the Mellon Foundation and the New York State Council on the Arts. Black Music Scene is a product of the Black Orchestral Network. Learn more at blackorchestralnetwork.org.